Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not my beat.
Yeah, that's right. Thursday, doors open at 4:30 at the Bullpen down in Navy Yard. I'll be there broadcasting live and be joined by all kinds of folks, including Johnny Cakes Auville and his mates from the Sports Junkies. Cakes joins us now. Cakes, what's up, buddy? Welcome to the show. How are we doing this for the first time?
I don't know. This is. I'm happy to be on. Thank you for having Anthony reach out to me. It sounds like he's already in arrears on. I'm not sure what the whiteboard fine is for, but it sounds like he's $5 in the hole, and he's about to go further into fine bill. So hopefully he's making some extra cash there at the Team 980 because it sounds like he can use it.
Yeah, so the basic premise is like you cough into a microphone, you don't edit a soundbite correctly, which both of us do like a lot of editing, and both of us could definitely cough into a microphone. Like Anthony somehow coughs into microphones all the time, like he hasn't worked in radio for a long time at this point. But like you do stuff like that where the show just is unprofessional for a moment. That costs you money. And then eventually we're just going to buy ourselves lunch with the money. So that it's not, or maybe we should donate it to charity. No, we're going to buy ourselves lunch. And the
That's
whiteboard
cool.
just keeps track.
Everybody at the station wins that way.
Yeah. So, well, we're not buying lunch for anyone else. Like it's just,
right.
You know, am I paying $40 and Anthony's paying 10, or is it the other way around depending on how the fines went? So that's how that's going to go. So Cakes, I'm going to put you in a time machine here, right?
Okay.
The year is 2012. Robert's running all over the place. And I tell you, in 11 years, in 2023, you are going to be the morning show host along with the rest of the junks, not just on 106.7 The Fan, but here on the Team 980. And then you guys are going to help us throw a party for Dan Snyder selling the football team. What part of that is most unbelievable to you?
Well, first of all, I would have said you had a weird, faulty time machine that didn't work quite correctly. But yeah, I mean the prospect of Dan Snyder selling the team 11 years after that amazing run, that 1 year run with Robert Griffin III, was unfathomable. I think I was along the same line of thinking as most Commanders / Redskins, Washington football team fans that we were going to be stuck with Dan Snyder in perpetuity, that he was going to own this team until his passing. Because who in their right mind sells an NFL team? These are crown jewels, and we've seen the franchise valuation skyrocketing to crazy levels. So yeah, I would have said you're a crazy person if you told me that Dan Snyder was going to part with this asset in the year 2023. But I'm happy he's doing so because it's a joyous time for anybody who's ever rooted for this team, for the people that have obviously fled this team in droves over the last decade plus. I mean, you've obviously seen, like we have, the stands at FedEx Field, how empty they've become. So, yeah, I would have thought you were crazy by telling me that, but I'm very happy that we'll be celebrating Dan's departure in just a few short days at the Bullpen.
Yeah, I can't wait to be out there. It's going to be fun watching the release of the fans. I mean, I remember coming in very sleep deprived to your show the morning after the Caps won the Stanley Cup, but also the night before, vividly, probably the most memorable night of my career, covering what it was like outside of Capital One Arena. And I was walking around with AWOD, and AWOD was in cameraman mode, and literally having a grown man cry on camera as we were interviewing him. What do you think the release of emotion will be on Thursday when the announcement comes down that it's official? Because this thing's been going in slow motion for so long. It's not that instantaneous pop of winning a championship, but in some ways it's also so much bigger.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be a huge catharsis for everybody that's supported this team, people that no longer support the team, people that have been on the fence because they've been driven away by just how bad not only an owner that Dan Snyder is, but just how bad of a human being he is. Like his rot has infected that entire franchise, the workplace, obviously. I mean, I know that you and we're going to be relieved just that hopefully with Josh Harris taking over that we're just talking about football, like when it's not football season, that we're not talking about scandals and cheerleader shoots gone awry and lawsuits and just the endless cascade of issues and dysfunction and black cloud that hung over Dan Snyder in his 2+ decades of ownership of this franchise. I mean, good riddance. I'm glad personally that he bought a mansion over in England and he'll be sailing on his yacht over in the Mediterranean. Like, he's been so shamed and humiliated that he's not even leaving just DC. He's leaving the country once he sells the Commanders. And good riddance. Like, nobody's going to miss him. It's a net positive for everybody involved that he's leaving.
Yeah, I will say London's a lovely place. I wish he had to go somewhere different. London's so great.
Well, he's downgrading it by moving there, but it's a net win for the United States that he's moving to London, and we no longer have to deal with Dan Snyder.
So, sorry to the English. We'll send better next time.
Right.
Johnny Cakes Auville with us, of course, co-host of the Sports Junkies each and every morning here on the Team 980, as well as all the other places that their show is simulcast. If I named them all, the segment would be over. So, you've obviously been doing this for 27 years now. So you actually have been going longer than that. That was my other part of that hypothetical, by the way. One, what was more disbelief that Dan would be selling, you would be on 980, or that you guys would still be doing this 27 years in, back in 2012. But, what point in that 27 years of doing this do you remember first having like a real bad feeling about Dan Snyder?
Ooh, first real bad feeling about him. That's a great question. Probably when he just started loading up on all of, like when he started treating the Redskins like they were his own personal fantasy team. And, he's lavishing guys like Deion Sanders and Bruce Smith and, guys that were clearly, in the twilight of their careers and, assembling like a fantasy football all-star team instead of letting a real football professional assemble the team for him. I think that was something that he obviously struggled with for years, was ceding that power and control of, running the team and helping to pick the players and realizing, hey, I'm not really qualified for this. I made a lot of money in business, a different business than the NFL. Maybe I should let people that actually know personnel and this business run this business and run it successfully instead of ruining one of the crown jewel franchises of the league, which is what he ultimately did in his 2+ decades here.
There's so many theories floating around of why Goodell and the other owners didn't step in sooner and get rid of him, considering he did exactly what you just described, ruin a crown jewel franchise. Do you have a theory of the case or a conspiracy or a set of facts that you particularly like that makes sense to you?
The only thing I can think of why Goodell may have protected him to such great lengths is that he must have some sort of dirt on, more dirt on Goodell that we don't know about. That Goodell was just terrified to push him out the door without the support of the rest of the owners. And I think he might have just worried that, that Dan Snyder was not going to go quietly into the night, that he would go, conduct a scorched earth campaign, try to burn down the entire NFL on his way out. So I think that's probably why Goodell was like, look, I know this guy's bad for the league. He's a terrible owner. We'd be better off without him. He's costing us money by the fact that he's leaving the franchise and not supporting his product here in the DC metro area. But I think he might have had some dirt on Goodell that Goodell did not want uncovered. So I guess it just reached a breaking point, and Goodell had to do it eventually. But I think he was probably scared of Dan Snyder and his litigious ways.
Yeah, that's one of the theories that I think I give some credence to, is there's got to be something. I don't know how bad it is. Like, is it just minorly embarrassing and annoying for Goodell, or is it actually bad? I don't know, but it certainly would explain the behavior. What for you is, this is obviously a question we'll be asking a lot of our listeners on both shows coming up this week, but like, if you were to give Josh Harris the to-do list, what's the top thing or top 2 or 3 things on it for when he takes over?
Topic number 1, issue number 1 for me, change the name again. I know that people have fatigue with the name change, and I understand that. Okay, they had a name that was obviously controversial and had to go away. I understand that, but nobody likes Commanders. It doesn't make any sense. Nobody's in love with that name. And if you pay $6.05 billion for a new NFL franchise, why would you not put your own imprint on it? Why would you not brand it the way you want to? Why would you not start fresh? Because to me, Commanders just has Dan Snyder stench and a taint to it. So that would be, I believe there's a rule where once the name is changed, you have to wait. I think it's 4 years.
I think it's 5, but it's 4 or 5, something like that. 5,
okay. But I would announce to the fans, we're changing the name. As soon as we can change this awful name, we're changing the name.
So here's, I'll just interject real quick and let you get back to your list. Yep. Here's what I would do with the name, because here's the more I've thought about this, there's no such thing as a good name. Do I think Commanders is particularly bad because you can't shorten it? Yes. But I would, the goodness of a name comes with nostalgia and good memories. Right. And if they go win the next 3 years, people will like Commanders because they will associate it with winning. But you have 2027 to 2030, somewhere in there, you're opening a new stadium. If you have been mediocre by then, I would change it then. New stadium, new name then, but give it a chance and potentially save yourself a couple $100 million of another rebrand.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you want to kick the can down the road and name it later, that's fine.
Especially because you can't do it now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you can't. Right. Okay, but if you want something immediate, I would fire Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera is not special unless he has Cam Newton as his quarterback, and he's proven that since he's been here, he can't get quarterback right. Everything he's tried has blown up in his face, and now he's down to rolling the dice with Sam Howell in what will be, and I'm convinced, will be his last year here in Washington. I don't think there's any way he survives into a new ownership regime. So if I were Josh Harris, I know that it's a radical thing to do.
A week before training camp?
I would fire Ron Rivera, and I would hand the keys to Eric Bieniemy, and I would say, "This is your shot, my friend. Here's your audition. It's your one-year audition." That's what I would do. But that's probably why I'm not a multi-billionaire that's about to buy an NFL franchise, Craig. Because I would make horrible decisions like that.
That's
what I would do.
I do love you describing your grand idea as a horrible decision, as you describe it. I do think it with Bieniemy in place and with all of the stuff that Ron has Eric doing, I do think it would work better than it would in other situations where you don't have an automatic number 2 who's ready to be a head coach. Right. But having been on the beat, man, that would be bad. And also here, in a way, I think we are, not a year, but postseason, we're a season away from a pretty interesting dynamic that kind of played out here a couple years ago with McVay. Everyone always yells about, well, how did they let McVay out of the building? How did they not know? And what I tell them is the very unsatisfactory truth that they did know, and there's not a damn thing they could do about it because Sean and Jay were best friends, and they couldn't fire the guy's best friend to hire the guy that wanted to leave. Sean would have had none of that. And so considering Bieniemy is kind of getting this shot from Rivera, Ron and Eric are not close like Sean and Jay were close, and their families don't have long histories and all that kind of stuff. But I do wonder if after the season they have another 9-win season and they want to move on to Bieniemy, if there's any kind of human level, personnel conversation that has to happen where they go to Eric and be like, look, we kind of want to fire Ron and hire you. And Eric is don't fire my boss to hire me. Or is he this is my chance. All right, let's do it.
Oh, I think it would be the latter because
I tend to as well.
Because I think Bieniemy he obviously feels like he's been passed over and slighted at every turn. And I just don't think that if he is given that sort of opportunity, I just don't feel like in his heart of hearts that he would be able to turn it down. Because if he turns it down, he might never get an opportunity like that again. So I think if it came down to sacrificing Ron, and what are we really sacrificing? I mean, look at Ron's overall record.
Oh, yeah.
Ron,
you're preaching the choir on that one.
He's had a losing record in 9 of 12 seasons. I think that's correct. I'd have to double check the numbers, but there's nothing special about Ron Rivera. And he is not going to, short of a 12 or 13 win season, which is double their Vegas win total at this point, he's not surviving into 2024, in my opinion. Maybe I'm reading the room wrong, but I just don't see a team with Sam Howell navigating its way through the NFC East and making a playoff run to save Ron's job. But maybe I'm crazy.
No, I don't think, at least not on that one. There's some other stuff y'all have done over the years that has me asking questions. By the way, you are correct and can confirm because I put $20 on the over when I was out in Vegas a couple weeks ago. It's 6.5, which feels low.
Yeah, I mean, for a team that generally wins 7 or 8 games under Ron's stewardship, it does seem low. But if this team gets off to a slow start, they've got Buffalo and Philly in the first 4 weeks. They have to go out to Denver in week 2. Like, if they don't get off to a 2-2, 3-1 start, it could get ugly early here.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I feel like this is the last thing I'll ask you, Cakes, on the way out, and then we'll recap real quick about what we're gonna do on Thursday. But on the football front, like, they were 8-1 last year, and I feel like they're a better football team this year, in large part due to Bieniemy, because I tend to think that the scheme is going to elevate a lot of different parts of this team that struggled last year. Do you think, just going into the year, roster, coaching staff, et cetera, are they a better team than they were last year?
I think they are better. I think that a lot of that depends on Chase Young being motivated, to try to get that big, gigantic contract that we know he's seeking. Not picking out that 5th-year option, I'm sure is burning him inside, that he wants to prove to people that it should have been picked up. So I think a healthy Chase should help with that. And I think adding to the secondary with the first 2 picks with Forbes and Martin should help out a pretty strong defense already. It all hinges on Sam Howell. Can Sam Howell be the 20th or 21st best quarterback in the league? If he can do that and distribute the ball efficiently to McLaurin, Dotson, get the tight ends more involved. And look, we know the name of the game in the NFL in 2023. You have to score. You can't go out and win 19, 17 games. Like that. That's just not going to get it done. If the enemy's influence on the offense has this team scoring 23 to 25 points per game with the defense they've assembled, then you could be working with something here. But if this team is scoring 18 or 19 points per game with the enemy at the helm of the offense, then it just seems like they're spinning their wheels.
Yeah, no, I think that's well put. All right, Johnny Cakes Auville, coach, the Sports Junkies, 6 to 10 each and every morning here on the Team 980. And then we'll be front and center for Burgundy and Sold, our party on Thursday. As soon as the votes pass, doors will open to the bullpen at 4:30. I got to still do my show, Cakes. I'm sure you'll be on it. You and some of the guys will stop by. What are you guys planning for Thursday, your part of the celebration?
I mean, like you said, we'll be guesting on some of the shows that are broadcasting from there. We'll be up on the stage, like introducing the bands and some of the special guests that are there at the bullpen. But look, like you touched on, it's a big party and a celebration and a relief for all the people that have suffered watching the Dan Snyder owned Washington football team / Commanders, all the names that they've been called over the years. Flailing in the standings and, usually coming in either last place or third place in the NFC East. It's time to blow off steam and accept the new ownership and wave bye-bye to Dan on his way out. And I think it'll be cool, too, that we'll be hanging with all the guys from 980. People from WPTC will be there. People from The Drive will be there. It'll be a good chance for, we don't get to hang out a lot because of all the differing day parts. And I wake up at 4 in the morning. You have a way different schedule than I do, et cetera. So it'll be cool for all of us to kind of get together, hang out, and raise a glass or two and celebrate Dan Snyder is not going to be in our lives any longer. Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, if you and I see each other at work, something's typically gone terribly wrong. One of us has had a bad schedule day. Yeah, something has gone really awry. That means that, I fell asleep on the couch in the green room or something weird happened. Yeah, so we get to see each other on purpose on Thursday. So looking forward to that. Appreciate you coming on the show. We'll definitely do it again. And I'll see you on Thursday, buddy. Have a great weekend. Excellent, man. Thanks for having me on, and I'm looking forward to it. And I mentioned on the Junk Show today, whoever came up with the Burgundy and Sold, that's a great name for the party. It's perfect. That person should get a bonus. So Burgundy and Sold, 4:30 on Thursdays when the doors opens at the bullpen. I'm looking forward to hanging with you, Craig, and hopefully Anthony isn't $100 in the hole by the time I get there. Yeah, God, he hasn't picked up. Luckily, he doesn't commit finable offenses that often. Otherwise, he wouldn't even have the opportunity to get fined anymore. He would have just been gone by now. Right. So there's that. Thanks, man. Have a good weekend. Thanks for having me on, man. Yeah, you got it. Johnny Cakes Auville, everybody. Of course, the Sports Junkies are 6 to 10 each and every morning here on the Team 980.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.